أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Respected brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it's an honor to be present in a majlis which is commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. May Allah reward all of you for your mourning and your commemoration of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. May Imam Hussein be your shafi'ah in this dunya and in the akhirah. It's my honor and my pleasure to be amongst you in Sweden, in Stockholm for these days. Although I feel that I don't have much to offer, but because I know the sincerity of the community, alhamdulillah, I had the opportunity to visit some years back. When they asked me, I felt that it would be unkind to turn down the invitation. So here I am, inshallah. I pray that Allah accepts the efforts and gives me the tawfiq to be able to perform the responsibility that has been placed upon me. Brothers and sisters, my background is mostly in education, in the field of education, although I spent some time in technology as well. And maybe the thing I do the most is teaching. And so the goal of a teacher is to ensure that learning takes place. When we come to the minbar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, in a way there's sometimes different priorities, and sometimes the priorities compete with each other. So one of the priorities is the oratory skills. When we're giving a speech, we want to be able to capture the audience, keep them engaged, and make it be interesting for them. On the other hand, we also have a goal of trying to impart the knowledge and making sure that whatever the goal in mind is for the learning experience, that goal has been achieved. As an educator, as a teacher, I think you know where my bias is towards. My bias is making sure that, inshallah, I'm able to convey the material. Inshallah, we'll try to do that with a bit of oratory power as well. But in general, the way I speak is plain and straight and simple, and trying to, inshallah, make sure that whatever needs to be conveyed gets conveyed. So for today's speech, it's the introduction, and it sets the stage for the coming nights. I have two goals. Goal number one is to introduce the topic that I'm going to be speaking about, which is the topic of Saʿādah. And goal number two is to review for myself and for all of you what we're here for. Like, what are these majalis even all about? Because sometimes we get used to doing something and it becomes, tradition. It becomes culture. It's what we do from the 1st of Muharram to the 10th of Muharram. But it's very important for us to set some goals for that. Review why we're here, so that when we're going through this experience, we want to make sure that it's beneficial for us, especially for our children, especially for our young ones. It's important for them to not only uphold the culture, but to do so with understanding. So these are the 2 goals that I have for today, inshallah. So number 1, the topic of the series. The topic is Saʿādah. And Saʿādah is one of those words which is difficult to translate into other languages. In the English language, we do not have a good word which is a good equivalent for Saʿādah. Most of the time, we would use the word happiness. But in some ways, happiness is a big distraction from the meaning of Saʿādah. So inshallah, I'm going to spend a bit of time using a few examples to explain what we mean by Saʿādah and to motivate us so we get excited and interested in this topic. So first of all, this topic of Saʿādah is directly related to the Quran, number 1. And number 2, the narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And because we're in Muharram, particularly the sayings of Imam Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. So we're going to be looking at a few of those sayings. So in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Hud, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Al-yawma ya'ti la takallamu nafsun illa bi'idhnih. On that day, the day of judgment, everyone's going to come, but it's not going to be the same like it is here. Here, we have a relative sense of freedom. We can do what we want. We can say what we want when we want. But on that day, it's not the case. On that day, the power of Allah will be seen to such a great extent that even if somebody wants to say something, they cannot do so unless they have permission from Allah. And then Allah summarizes in Surah Hud what it's going to be like on that day. So He says, فَمِنْهُمْ شَقِيٌّ وَسَعِيدٌ. On that day, there's going to be 2 categories of people. Those who are shaqi. In English, we might use the word wretched or miserable or sad or other words like that, but we'll just say shaqi. And وَمِنْهُمْ شَقِيٌّ وَسَعِيدٌ. Sa'id is the one who is ahlus Saʿādah, the person who has attained Saʿādah. Okay, and then Allah describes, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ شَقُوا فَفِي النَّارِ لَهُمْ فِيهَا زَفِيرٌ وَشَهِيقٌ فَالَّذِينَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا مَا دَامَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ. And then the ayat continue that those who are ahlul shaqawa, those who are wretched, they're going to be living in the fire. Their dwelling and their home is in the fire, in the nar. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ سُعِدُوا فَفِي الْجَنَّةِ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا مَا دَامَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ رَبُّكَ عَطَاءً غَيْرُ مَجْذُوذٍ. That those who are ahlul Saʿādah, those who have attained Saʿādah, they are going to be in Jannah. So these words are very important, and you could say that this is the goal, right? What are we here for? What's the whole point? It's to attain Saʿādah. Saʿādah, as I said, sometimes it's translated as happiness, but we're going to use a different word. We're going to use the word felicity, or we can use the word blessedness. Felicity meaning true and deep happiness, and blessedness meaning being in the state of being blessed. Now, why is this a topic which is relevant for us? Right? What does it have to do with Imam Hussein alayhi salam? This is where when we go to the words of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we see him at times making reference to the topic of Saʿādah. and shaqawa. So for example, on the day of Ashura, imagine Imam Hussein alayhi salam is giving a khutbah, right? He's giving a speech. Who is he talking to? He's speaking with the enemy army. This is the last hujjah, the last time that he is going to present his arguments, the last time he's going to preach, the last time he's going to give them a chance. So what does he say? His sermon is very famous. In this sermon he says, Alhamdulillah alladhi khalaqa dunya. Allah is the one who deserves praise. He is the one who created this dunya. In other words, he's telling the enemy army that you are all doing this because you're hungry for the dunya. You're chasing this dunya. But remember, this dunya was created by Allah. So think about that, reflect on it. And then he says, فَجَعَلَهَا دَارَ فَنَاءٍ وَزَوَالٍ. Allah made the dunya as something which is transient, something which comes and goes, something which just you, like a traveler, you pass through it and then it's gone. مُتَصَرِّفَةً بِأَهْلِهَا حَالًا بَعْدَ حَالٍ. Don't you reflect on this dunya? In a way, Imam Hussein is speaking to the people and getting them to reflect and use their aql. And we know that some of them were, right? The story of Hur that all of you are familiar with. Hur was inspired, and perhaps this sermon was one of those, the big motivations that he had. He said that this is my chance to actually make my move. Although from before he was thinking about it, but now this was the motivation that he got. So he says, reflect on the dunya. Don't you see how this dunya is something which takes somebody from one state to another state and you don't have any control over it? I mean, how many of you can reverse the process of aging? I know that these days, at least in the United States, it's a big thing where people are like investing and spending millions of dollars in supplements and, transplants and injections. Why? Because they want to fight death, right? They want to just be immortal. It's very interesting, the philosophy behind it. One of the main people behind it, after launching his own brand of products in order to be able to get people to live forever, he said that, okay, I'm going to sell off the brand and I'm going to start my own religion, right? So the religion of wanting to live forever in this world. It's very interesting. So he said, don't you see that you don't have any control over this? You are the one who are being taken from one state to another state. You're getting older, you're aging. And this dunya which you're hungering for, it's going to be snatched from you. So learn from this. And then Imam Hussein ﷺ says, فَالْمَغْرُورُ مَنْ غَرَّتْهُ وَالشَّقِيُّ مَنْ فَتَنَتْهُ. He says that the one who is deceived and truly deceived and deluded and fooled is the one whom the dunya has fooled. And the one who is really wretched is the one that this dunya has tried and that person has failed in that trial. So Imam Hussein is getting people to reflect on this, that do you really want to be a wretched person? Let me show you a different way of living. Let me show you the path of Saʿādah. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he is asked to give bay'ah to Yazid, right, he says many lines which have now become very famous, and I'm sure that you're familiar with them. One of those lines is this. He says that لا أرى الموت إلا سعادة والحياة مع الظالمين إلا برما. I don't see, to live and I don't see to live with these type of tyrants in this type of suffocating society with this level of injustice. I don't see that except it being absolute unbearable misery. But I see death as being Saʿādah. I see death as being a gateway to true happiness. Now I want to pause here and say something. Sometimes people, when they come to these sayings, they look at them in a shallow way and they get the wrong understanding. Sometimes they say that, okay, look at Imam Hussein alayhi salam is saying, astaghfirullah, na'udhu billah, he's saying that the way you can truly be happy is by dying, right? And then you see people, right, they go around and I don't know, they're having some issues with their parents or issues with their children, or they lose their job, or they don't get what they want, and they say that, Inni la ara mauta illa Saʿādah, right? I just want to die, right? Can I just die already? Like Imam Hussein alayhi salam, astaghfirullah, is my inspiration. I just want to die, right? That's not what Imam Hussein alayhi salam is saying here, okay? I don't know if brothers and sisters are aware of this, but if you reflect on this, how many years did Imam Hussein alayhi salam live with Muawiyah being the one whom the Muslims had accepted as the Khalifa of the Muslimin? And just think about that. Did Imam Hussein alayhi salam tolerate living under the Khilafah of Muawiyah? And the answer is yes, right? For like 10 years, Imam Hussein alayhi salam was living with the Zalimeen, okay? But he was tolerating it. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam's path is the path of Saʿādah, meaning that in that circumstance, Imam Hussein alayhi salam is saying that my Saʿādah now, at this point, my blessedness and the path of true happiness, at this point, it involves my becoming a shaheed. But before that, it involved living, right? And this is really the focus of my series, inshallah, is how do we live with Saʿādah? How do we live with true felicity and happiness? And we're inspired from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I'll tell you something. One time, many, many years ago, when I had the honor of delivering lectures for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and this was maybe the second or third time that I had this opportunity, many years ago. There was a young man who came up to me after one of the lectures, and he asked me a question. He said, why is it that we always hear about the death of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but we never hear about the life of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Because if we want to take lessons from him, then we're living right now, and how can we do that if we only hear about his death? So my answer to him at that time is something I'm sure that all of you would answer, is that number one, in the death of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, there's a lot we can learn about how we live. But the answer number two is that, brother, you're actually right. You're correct, right? We do need to use this as an opportunity to learn how to live like Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Live like Imam Hussein alayhi salam and die like Imam Hussein alayhi salam. In the English language, when I was a child, there was a saying that was being said in the latmiyas in English. Okay, I don't know if it's something that's there in your languages as well, but it was this saying. It was, live like Ali and die like Hussein. Right? Have you heard this saying before? Or is it just live like Ali and die like Hussein? And when we study the life of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we realize that, well, okay, there's nothing wrong with living like Ali, and there's nothing wrong with dying like Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But maybe a more correct way would be to say what? That I want to live like Ali and die like Ali. I want to live like Hussein. I want to die like Hussein alayhi salam. Right? It's not that somehow Imam Hussein alayhi salam didn't live a life that we would like to live, or that Imam alayhi salam died in a way that we wouldn't like to die. In fact, what we say in our ziyarat, in our dua, is Allahumma ahyina hayata Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Oh Allah, I want to live like the life of Muhammad and his family. I want to die like their life as well. Please say salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So my point, inshallah, is to focus on this, that how do we live a life of Saʿādah and taking inspiration from the words of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam. Every night, brothers and sisters, my intention is to share one story of living. Okay? One story. And the story is going to be shared towards the beginning of the lecture. So if you're coming in like typical, I thought maybe it's something that's only in America, but Muslim Standard Time looks like it's kind of standard, right? The Muslim Standard Time where you come in a little bit late, right? So if you're going to come in late, you might miss the story, which is sort of the key for each night. Each night, I'm going to be starting with each story, and I'll refer to that story then throughout the lecture. And the reason why I'm doing that is because these programs and these lectures will come and they'll go. But if we're looking for something to stick around for us, personally, I found over the years that the stories that we hear from the lives of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are what we call enduring. They stick around. They stay with us and they become something that can be a source of huge inspiration for us in our lives. So that's what, inshallah, every night I'm going to pick one of these key stories from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, which inshallah we're going to focus on and learn from. For tonight's story, if inshallah you're enthusiastic about hearing it, I would like to invite you to recite a beautiful salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So again, these stories are inshallah there to guide us for how to live a life of Saʿādah, blessedness, felicity. This story is narrated in the books of our well-accepted hadith, and it's narrated from somebody named Yunus ibn Ammar. And Yunus ibn Ammar, he goes to Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, and he asks him a question. He's very worried, right? He's very distressed. So he says to him that, oh, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, I'm just paraphrasing here, he says that I saw some marks on my skin that could be a type of disease, which is a terminal illness, something that will eventually I'll be killed, I'll die because of these, sort of thing, patches, because of these patches that have appeared in my skin. I'm really worried I'm going to die. Okay? So he goes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and he says that, tell me, what should I do at this time? Because, now this is a very interesting part here. This is where I'm going to ask us to reflect. He says that there are some people who are telling me that if Allah loves His servant, if Allah loves somebody, then He wouldn't give him this disease. So what is he thinking? He said that Allah doesn't love me because He didn't give me this disease right here. And this is very important, brothers and sisters. Right? Because Imam Hussein alayhi salam, companions of Imam Hussein, they were the washaq, right? They were the people of ishq, the people of true love. So what does it mean? Right? He says, here I am, I'm a believer, and I'm being tested in this way. Is it the case that Allah doesn't love me? Look at what Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that you, Yunus, you have your Ammar ibn Yunus ibn Ammar, your understanding is incorrect. This is not the way that you should be thinking about Allah's relationship with you. In other words, the path of Saʿādah and living a blessed life is not that you lead a life and you don't have problems in your life. Who said that? Then he gives an example. He says that in the Quran, in Surah Yasin, we read about a mu'min who comes to the defense of the prophets who are sent by God. Right? Here are these prophets who are preaching and the people want to kill them. And suddenly there's a believer who has so much courage and so much bravery. He comes and he says, Ya qawm ittabi'u al-mursadeen. Oh my people, follow the mursadeen. I don't care if you want to kill me for speaking the truth, but I'm going to stand and defend the truth here. Ittabi'u al-mursadeen. Ittabi'u man la yas'alukum ajran wa hum muhtadun. Follow those who don't ask you for a reward. And they are the ones who are rightly guided. And then in the story of Yasin, then eventually they make him a martyr. So Imam Sadiq says that mu'min, when he was preaching to the people, he had a claw type of a hand. Some people have a type of issue where they can't straighten their fingers. So his fingers were like this, and he's preaching to the people. And all the while, Imam Sadiq explained that he's preaching to people, he's preaching, and he's moving both of his hands like this. Okay? Now somebody could have looked at that and said what? That if he's somebody who's in Allah's favor, then why is it that he has a deformity in his hands like this? Why wouldn't Allah make him perfect, beautiful, no problems? Imam Sadiq wants him to think and reflect, that's not the path of Saʿādah. There's something you need to learn now that you've been afflicted with this disease. So then what does he tell him? He says that if you want to take care of this, this is what you need to do. He says that in the last third of the night, wake up and perform the prayer that you normally pray. So he says, number one, you have to be ahlul ibadah, you have to be somebody who engages in worship at night. Number two, when you perform 2 rak'ahs of prayer at that time, then with all of your heart, go and beg from Allah and ask Him to relieve you of this problem that you have here. And He tells him what to say. He says, say, Ya Aliyu, Ya Azimu, Ya Rahmanu, Ya Rahimu. And then there's a few lines. And then he says that, basically state to Allah that this is a problem. I'm scared. I'm worried about this. Help me to deal with this. So for Yunus, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was telling him that, look, at your happiness lies in actually dealing with this, not running away from it, and growing as a result. And so Yunus says that I took this from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, I performed this a'mal, and soon enough Allah had removed that disease and I was fine. Please just say salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, this is a good example for us to reflect upon. Okay? That where does happiness really lie? Sometimes we think that happiness is equivalent to ease, and we're seeking an easy life. And of course, there's nothing wrong with asking Allah for ease and relief from difficulty. But we see time and time again that people who have bitterness, they are the ones who are able to taste true sweetness, right? Even when it comes to like food, right? This is a strong analogy. If we always eat sweet things, right, we get sick of it, right? But when we are able to complement it with something which is bitter, something which is sour, something which is salty, then the sweet things actually are something that we look forward to. So similarly in our lives, true happiness and true Saʿādah doesn't lie in running away from difficulties. In the United States, we have a cultural issue, and I think that it's something which is common across the board. I'm pretty sure here you face it as well. I'll give you an example. In our grading system in schools, you get grades for how well you do. So at the end, either you get an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. I'm sure there's something similar here in your system as well, correct? Okay, maybe you get numbers, you get letters, I'm not sure. And A is the best, and F means that you failed. So it's very interesting. They did studies which say that in the 1960s, the most common grade that was given to students was an F. If you were to get an A, it was something which was very rare and very exceptional. And then as the decades passed, right, they saw that people started to get, the average grade that was given was a D, and then it was a C, and then it was a B, and then I think around the 1980s or 1990s, it switched to it becoming an A. And now, in today's culture, for the most part, most of the students, majority will get A's, and it's very, very rare for somebody to get an F or a D. Now, you could say that there are different reasons for why that might be the case, right? There could be economic reasons or political pressure or whatever, but part of it is that there's a culture which has developed of wanting ease and thinking that ease is the path towards true happiness. Okay, and this is something that can seep into our lives as well when it comes to different types of challenges that are part of life. One of the things, inshallah, that we're going to be focusing on this night is family life. Because in families, you cannot have a collection of people, whether it's a family or a community, without having, conflicting opinions and without having disagreements and without having, people needing to be able to get along despite being different. That's the nature of any family or any collection of people. But if our goal is to try to avoid any difficulty and make it be as easy as possible, that's a recipe for disaster in the family. Because no family will succeed where everyone is just taking the path of easiness. So this is something that inshallah we're going to be exploring. And some questions that I would like you to reflect on, inshallah, as you are, get an opportunity to reflect and you're thinking about what we learn. And I always recommend that people, they take time to discuss these topics with their families, with their children, and see what they're thinking. Some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves, inshallah, is that where do we find our happiness? Right? What are we obsessed with? What is our capacity to be able to deal with difficulties that come up in our lives? How secure and happy do I feel? Do I have the pleasure of Iman? Do I have ladhatul Iman? Do I have this sense of delight and happiness and blessedness because I'm a mu'min? Or do I feel depressed and anxious? Am I caught in the past? Am I worried about the future? Am I able to let go of those things that I should let go of? Am I able to have a spirit of reliance on Allah? How do I navigate, relationships which are causing difficulty in a way that I can preserve Saʿādah? These are some of the things that, inshallah, in the upcoming nights, I want to cover. I want to give practical examples like we did today, inshallah. Finally, brothers and sisters, I want to just mention 5 or 6 targets and goals that we like to have from these majalis. We're here. We want to make sure that there's a purpose behind what we're doing. So based on the teachings of our great maraji and our esteemed great scholars and leaders, I have 5 or 6 points that inshallah I want to share with you as targets for myself and inshallah for all of you as well. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So point number 1 we have from our great leaders and maraji, number 1 is that when we come to these majalis, we should do so with the intention of taking something from it and benefiting. I can see, in our respected brothers here, that at times when I'm looking at you, you're nodding your head. That head nod for me means that you're here for the right reason. You're trying to hear, you have an open mind and open heart, and you're trying to get something to take. This is a sign of ikhlas. But there might be some other people who are treating it like a ritual, right? I come in, I give my time, I wear my black, I beat my chest, and I'm done. Okay, now inshallah, everyone will be rewarded from the sufra of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. There's something for everyone. But our encouragement is to take it to a next level and come for the purpose of gaining something, number 1. Number 2 is that when we're here, we should try to better understand the event of Karbala and the event of Ashura. Hopefully even some of the references I made today to what happened on the day of Ashura and what happened when Imam Hussein ﷺ was living at the time of Muawiyah and Yazid, that was an opportunity for us to learn more about this event. It's very important to have that understanding so that when we cry and when we mourn, it has more meaning. Number 3 is that we should focus on Imam Hussein ﷺ, but not just his shahada. This is a point I made earlier. We should be trying to learn about the principles that he stood for. His amr bil ma'ruf, his nahi anil munkar, the fact that he was there to present the truth, how he made sure to do tabeen and to clarify misconceptions. Number 4 is that we should be here so that we want to take lessons and ibrah. Okay, lessons is clear. Lessons meaning that Imam Hussein teaches the lesson of, for example, of sacrifice, of standing up against injustice, of ubudiyah. Ibrah means those things that we should not do, right? What we should not be like. So, for example, if we see that these are people who have been tempted by the dunya and they failed in that test, we want to stay away from that. We want to be careful. This is the 4th thing. And the last one is that at the end of this, it should be like a classroom, right? It should be like a classroom that, the hope is that by the end, we've gotten a good lesson in some topic, some reminder. Many of the points that we hear are things that we've heard before, but every single one of us needs these reminders. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we're here. There are 5 points, inshallah, that I want to encourage all of us to try to aim. And then at the end, you can ask yourself then, did we achieve these? Were we here to gain something? Were we here to gain, did we get better understanding of the event? Did we learn about Imam Hussein Islam, not just his shahada? Did we take key lessons and ibrah? And did we take a type of class? By the end, we have one topic that we've covered. Finally, last point, brothers and sisters, is just as an inspiration, inshallah, as we enter the musibah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. One of the stories from the event of Karbala that every time I get a chance to reflect on it and to read it or to hear it, it's something which brings about a lot of emotion. I want to share it with you tonight, inshallah, as we move to the Musibah portion. When the army of Hur intercepted the army of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they had been in the desert for some days. And even though they were the aggressors, they were the zalimeen, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam sees their condition, he sees that they're tired and they're thirsty, he tells his companions, we have water, they have run out of water, take from our water and give it to them. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he offers the water to all their soldiers and to their animals as well. And there's somebody named Al-Muharibi, Ali Al-Muharibi, who comes a little bit late. He's part of the army of Hur. And when he comes, he's very thirsty and he's really tired. And he sees that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is standing there. And when Imam Hussein alayhi salam sees him, he says that, take this water, kneel your camel down, make your camel sit down, and take this water skin. And Ali al-Muharrami doesn't understand, the fasih Arabic that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is using. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam switches into a dialect that he'll understand. Look at how kind he is. Look at how flexible Imam Hussein alayhi salam is. Then this thirsty man, Ali, is trying to drink water from the skin, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam is telling him, this is the way you do it. But every time he drinks the water just pours down and he can't drink it properly. He's so thirsty. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself goes, he takes the water skin, he folds it in a certain way, and then he makes the water go down in the mouth of Ali al-Muharrami. And Ali al-Muharrami then quenches his thirst at the hand of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. One of the lessons we can take from this, brothers and sisters, is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is for everyone. When you're here, it doesn't matter. If you're here, you're being honored. You've been invited by Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Maybe we're coming here, we're feeling low in our iman, we feel like we're sinners, we've turned a little bit distant away from our iman, away from our deen. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam is asking us, and he's coming to us. It's not a coincidence that we're here right now. That water is the water of guidance, which inshallah is there for all of us. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin.